Ding dong, the narc is gone. And we're back for another one. Welcome back. Let me just put this on the charger. It works good with the one in the right ear because that's the one with the microphone, I believe. Maybe it just kicked in. I think I heard it, but good to see ya. Hope you're all doing good. How's everyone feeling this energy with Solstice coming up? I've been hearing some good things about the Mads with her Sophia perspective and what actually happens during the winter solstice, or what we're calling, Christmas. And if you're awakened on similar paths as mine, you'll understand that the meaning of Christmas has inevitably very drastically changed from what it once was. And even from a non-religious perspective, just seeing what America has made Christmas, it's, might as well be another Black Friday event. I think Black Friday was just a way to insert another Christmas, or like a pre-Christmas sort of shopping craze. But it's usually Black Friday ends up being more about shopping for yourself than anyone else. But it all depends on who used it for what and whatever. But that's not why we're here today. We're here to celebrate another day of life on this planet and talking about consciousness and awareness and being conscious of our transfer of energy to one another, like being conscious of the energy inside of us, because we want to maintain that level of vibration, right? Like that consciousness scale. We always want to be as high on that scale as we can. It's the outside world that comes in and usually ends up raining on our parade. We're just trying to follow our bliss and be our own individual people with our own individual things that we like. And then we get the world to come in and, show us its brand of reality, or its brand of facts, or whatever you projected out into the world, you're seeing it mirrored back. It all depends on what level, at what stage in the journey you are and how you view things. But essentially, we want to be vibing high. And so how can we ensure that happens on a more frequent basis, instead of allowing certain aspects of our human nature or our human condition to get in the way? How can we change these systems to reflect more of a pursuit of happiness than what was traditionally reflected by the American dream? Like the pursuit of your bliss, the ability to follow your bliss, not just, I think the American version of the pursuit of happiness, that's the house and the car and the white picket fence and the apple pie in the window, and that still involves a lot of these slave type societal systems, these failed sort of systems that just, unless maybe they had the idea of it back in the 50s, is when it was an uncorrupted dream to be able to do these things, but very much still in separation consciousness. But now in this new coming awareness, this mass awakening, we want to unify the consciousness so that we're not separated from each other anymore. What I feel, I also feel for that. I also feel that person's, and the empathy. I think back then it was so separated. You weren't even in touch with your own self, let alone what your neighbor was feeling. I guess I didn't live in that era, so I can't really speak on it. I can only speak on what I see from historically. We are kind of at the precipice of two different subjects here, because we can talk about the point at which, yeah, let's just get into it. So two of my favorite people, minds, two of the greatest minds in my opinion, got together and did a podcast together, or an interview I should say. One was interviewing the other, but it's Alex O'Connor and Vsauce Michael. He brought up this thing, very good podcast, I'd recommend checking it out, but he was talking about this bicameral mind theory, which I guess has been around for a while, but he was just diving into it. He explained it a little bit, but it's the point at which we went from believing that things outside of us were driving us to do things, like thoughts coming into our heads were looked at as outside actors at one point. Like, I'm talking like 1000 BC and shit like that. BC era is when we had these visions, and it's when, you know, people saw the presence of God, spoke to them in a dream, and it's this very archaic view of, there's that transition point where we went to, oh, it's actually in my head. I'm understanding it as, now I'm hearing things, not just, there was a good one where, like, in the Iliad, they said, like, the god of hunger made me eat, and the fate of sleepiness made me sleep, and stuff like that, where it was all these outside actors and their forces on you, instead of, I wanted to go down to the river and pick a flower, and, you know, that kind of stuff. So, like, very interesting. And I'm just diving into it. I was doing some editing and getting more storage cleared on my phone. I was watching it, but I just paused it because the ding dong, the narc is gone, and it's time for a new one for today. And I did figure out how to take up less space in storing my videos. Man, my hands are cold. I'm trying to warm them up right now. I swear it went from like raining yesterday to now it's 8 degrees outside. It's nuts. Anyway, very interesting topic. Bicameral Mind by Julian Jaynes, and I'm actually watching this video right now. It's how God became I. It's actually this interesting. These two, Quinn and Mickey, are these two like puppet looking things. They're alien humanologists. Okay, they're interviewing Brian McVeigh, who's an anthropologist and an author, and so I'm watching that video right now. I have it paused so that I can do this, but very interesting stuff on consciousness and how it kind of evolved to be what it is, and why people back in the Old Testament thought God was literally appearing to them in dreams, and then later on they realized that, oh, where did he go? I guess he was there, you know, it's just my mind kind of a thing. But anyway, consciousness and the new earth. I just edited the video that I'm about to upload to TikTok, which I haven't yet because I wanted to jump on while there's sunlight and it's beautiful. I mean, it is shining out there right now. We're on this marks the day of the closest approach to 3i Atlas yet, Earth, and on its way, you know, it's coming back. It went around the sun and it's going back out, and now the Earth is coming back around as it's like going out. So this will be the closest we've gotten to 3i Atlas yet. So what that means, I don't know. I guess there's other solar stuff going, or there's other astrological stuff going on right now, and I was definitely feeling it yesterday. to jump on while there's sunlight and it's beautiful. I mean, it is shining out there right now. This marks the day of the closest approach to 3i Atlas yet. Earth, and on its way, you know, it's coming back. It went around the sun and it's going back out. And now the Earth is coming back around as it's like going out. So this will be the closest we've gotten to 3i Atlas yet. So what that means, I don't know. I guess there's other solar stuff going, or there's other astrological stuff going on right now. And I was definitely feeling it yesterday. And you'll see it in my video that is about to come out in a couple days. Just how the effect it had. I couldn't work out. Like, well, I really had to push in order to work out. And it just, things were just off. Like, it was Murphy's Law day. Like, you could tell things were just trying to screw up your flow. The more you see it and the more you, like, you don't try to fight it, you just, like, you're like, okay, I see you. I see your tricks. I'm gonna stop you in your tracks right here. I can see what you're doing. I can see you trying to slide off the thing. I'm gonna, you know, and just gotta be proactive about it and just watch it try to play out. But it's almost like the gravity angle is just shifted a little bit and everything's just kind of trying to settle into its new groove. And then once you're in your groove again, then you feel like now I got that traction. I'm flowing again. I was doing that video and it reminded me of all the things I was talking about. Like, that's why I was so excited to talk about it, because there is a lot to expand on yet. But, you know, if you haven't checked out those videos, I haven't even dropped them yet, but by the time you see this, they will have dropped like a couple days ago already. So, like, check those out. It's called New Earth Social Credit Scores for Lauren Grace asked me to elaborate on the social credit scores. And this, so I decided, like, in sort of, you know, in expanding on that, I started, like, calling it not social credit scores. I crossed that out and I'm calling it conscious credit scores. So, like, let's take the social credit score out because it's already got a bad stigma attached to it, and it's already being used for oppression and punitive measures over in China. And so if we try to adapt that thing, it's just going to be met with resistance and carry with it that connotation of the negativity that it once was. So let's change it to conscious credit scores so that it actually indicates more of what it is. What it actually is a score-based system of your level of consciousness. It's because we always want to be vibing high. We want to be excited when the narc is gone. Ding dong, the narc is gone. You know, kind of a thing. Like, hell yeah, the sun is out. It's awesome. I had some coffee. Just vibing high, following your bliss, you know. Whatever that might come to, and not allowing the world to hold you back, not letting that intrusive thought creep in and say, yeah, but you got to do this, or yeah, but things just don't work that way. You know, don't expect to. Whatever. I'm not even going to try to project on it. I'm just trying to say that the social or the conscious credit score can be used because I had another inquiry, and actually these two main inquiries is what fueled my last several videos, and I hope those individuals end up finding them. I'm going to try and tag them, but if not and you're watching this one first, definitely I am addressing the conscious credit score thing as a way to provide guidance for the people that may not have been great with their money, or might not have learned how to manage money. And in you know, in the system that we're familiar with, that we're coming out of, the dying, the archaic, you know, oppressive, predatory sort of monetary system that we're coming out of, money management was very important, because it was like we were in this system where we're taught we're in competition with each other, so resources are limited. We're not going to expect that they're always going to be there for us, so we have to go out and grab as much of it as we can, store as much of it as we can, and be judicious in the use of those resources so that we can ensure there's the correct amount of resources over a period of time. And because looking at how finite things are in our life, how finite our lives even are, or not, maybe we'll find that we are infinite. But until then, we're going to go along the basic assumption of why we got here. How did we get here? We are trying to preserve things for future events that haven't happened yet. So there's like a fear thing in the background running that script. There's a little bit of fear going on, that we need to be prepared because we don't know what to expect, and we can't rely on anyone else. We got to rely on ourselves and what we've been able to. We got to be that squirrel storing nuts for the winter. We have to, like, no one's going to store our nuts for us, and there's not going to be anything to eat. That sort of a thing. But, which, to an extent, okay, the squirrel is correct. He's got to store some nuts, but squirrels end up storing like 80, they end up losing like 80% of the nuts they hide anyway. Or another squirrel comes across it and steals that nut, and then so it ended up being kind of just a social net program of the squirrels. You know, squirrels helping squirrels. Well, people can also help people in that way too. And it doesn't have to be because we forgot that those nuts are planted there. We can plant them with intention that someone else finds them. You know, because we're conscious of that. We're not in that survival of the fittest you know, sort of mentality anymore. I think that's a very separation consciousness based mentality to be in, fear based. But in this new conscious world moving forward, we're going to be almost kind of rated by our level of consciousness that we're able to maintain. Once we're healed and we don't carry with us any burden of pain, emotional pain, mental pain, we don't have any more burdens, and we're healed and we can vibe high, we can better counteract what comes in to us from the world. And the better we are at managing that, the archons, or you know, all the other stuff that this world throws at us, and the higher we can keep our vibration, the more wealthy and abundant we will be. Like, that'll be our level of currency. That will be the measure of wealth in the new earth, is how high is your vibration? How high can you maintain your vibration in the face of certain things that might pop up? How are you able to transmute as much of those things out of this world as you can? Like, you can say, I'm making these muffins, to take from a previous video. I'm making these muffins, and there's the train, and I'm combating the low vibrating feeling of hunger by making these muffins for the collective people. And we're gonna say no to hunger today. Here, let not hunger bring you down, my friend. Here, keep your vibe high with this, with my this will help you alchemize your hunger, sort of. That would be someone's contribution to the collective. How you pay the universe, and what you put out, you get back. And so through the law of attraction, now you're going to attract the things that you desire based on your vibration. And they will be contributions from others who are putting their contribution out there to the universe. So it's a big reciprocal thing, which is, and I know what you guys are thinking. And again, I'm not going to say the dirty word that everyone wants me to say, but I'm just not going to say it. But because it's not that, but it's very much like that. In all the best things of it sense, it is like that, but it's not that in all the worst things of it. I think I've described that pretty adequately by now. And if you have any other questions on that, please do see my other videos, because I do go into great details on, and moving forward, we can get into a little bit more of the specifics now that I've broken out the groundwork. And as the comments flood in, we can start breaking through, and maybe I can make some videos based on the comments and the questions that come up based on this, on more individual cases, instead of just trying to be, I try to keep it as broad as possible, because it has to be, otherwise we could sit here for hours. Well, if this was this way and that was that way, and that person wanted to be so complex, but it really doesn't have to be. I feel like initially we can use the consciousness credit score system to monitor people's level of consciousness. What sort of activities are they engaging in? What sort of a person is this person actually? How much have they helped society? What have they done? Maybe they still have some healing needing to be done. Their contribution is to spread pain to others, which in that case, you could look at it dualistically and say, well, they are providing a necessary function too. So we have to love that and embrace it, but we also don't have to invest any more than what's necessary. Or, we could look at it like they might not have the same functionality as someone who has healed and is able to maintain that higher vibration. So their currency isn't effective for the levels of things. Say you wanted to go into business and you actually wanted to make a product, and you had an idea for the product, and it was something that is being made in other places, but you just want to make it here for the people in your locale. And it's well known, and it just takes a certain amount of resources, and you can get going and start providing the service for people. Say you wanted to do that, and all you needed was the startup money and the funding, and then you hit the ground running, and now you're contributing to your collective. I think people who still have pain to share with the world at that rate, or at that point in their existence, aren't going to have access to the resources that would allow them to be able to create a product, or be able to put out a bigger impact on society, on the consciousness at that level. They just wouldn't have access to those resources. So their currency would be able to acquire certain things, certain necessities and stuff, they would have access to all of the food and the clothes and stuff like that, but if they ever wanted to become contributive to the collective, then they would have to heal, and they would have to get and raise their consciousness to a certain, and the credit score system could function to early on to try to indicate where different people are on that scale, so that we, like, what I think it was Zena Mari had brought up, was that what if people have made past mistakes with their money and just spent it badly and didn't learn, and all that along those lines. And which is a very good point, because like people who aren't conscious and aren't aware of their actions are going to be more in their ego and chasing those material things of competition with each other and hoarding and those sort of behaviors. So we wouldn't allow them access to the resources that where their impact on the world would be greater than. If they had the resources like that, they could do more damage. Then we don't want that. We want the people who need to heal to also be able to acquire what they need, but not to be able to reach out and affect other people with their pain, you know, or spread the pain, you know, in some ways. Like, because then you would see, it would show in their product, you know. What did Jesus say? To see them, you'll know them by their fruits. That if they would be allowed at that level of pain to have access to those sort of resources, their fruits or their product of their contribution maybe would end up causing someone at a higher vibrating frequency. They come across those products and they're just not like the oranges. They're just not that one that's just dialed and perfect. They're the ones that just really don't have much going on. They, you know, and there's a necessary place in the world for them, but there's that underlying pinning of disappointment to it. So maybe their product causes harm to people. Maybe they accidentally, there's so much pain in their existence, their distraction with that, with their mental state, causes them to make a mistake and causes them to spread an illness to someone through whatever it is. I'm just thinking food related. Maybe they poison someone accidentally, or undercooked meats, or whatever it is. You know, maybe we don't even deal with meat. I don't know. Whatever it is, their pain could lead to, if they had access to the amount of resources, if they had that desire, we would restrict, you know, and if they have the amount of pain that would restrict them to have the resources in order to be able to do that to other people. You'd have to be at a certain level of consciousness in order to gain access to the resources that. But once you are at that level of consciousness, it really is just a transfer of stewardship. It's as easy as expressing intention. Like I was saying, like that scene that I mentioned again in one of my other videos from the Hunger Games, where Katniss is trying to get that pin at that black market, and she sees it, she's curious about it, she appreciates it, she asks about it, she expresses interest, she's shown to be vibing high, she just, and how much would you like for it? And the lady's like, it's yours, you just take it, because she could see that's the transfer, that's the stewardship that I'm talking about, where maybe the lady paid for it, or however the lady acquired it, but it's in her coffers, and now transferring it to Katniss really isn't, you know, what's she gonna miss from that pin? It's not like a cornerstone of her business, or anything, even though it all contributes. But in a non-monetary society, stuff like that is just transferred, because the lady can then assume she doesn't need to sell that pin for a certain amount of beans so that she can afford to go and buy her coffee. She's going to give that pin to Katniss because Katniss is vibing high. And now because Katniss is vibing high, her vibration in the world is causing someone else to vibe high enough to make enough coffee so that when that old lady wants her coffee, it's there for her. And it's also free. That's the exchange. That's why in that question from Zena Mari, I couldn't really answer how do we deal with people who aren't good with money, because there's not going to be money. It's just not. And I told her, I said, I don't want to seem like I'm skirting your question or anything, but I hope I'm able to answer this completely. It's just that you got to understand, like, when we, in a conscious society, when we dissolve the ego, and we're no longer in competition with each other, and we're no longer trying to hoard or collect beans, we're going to be at that state of awareness where only the people that do still need to heal from the pains, and so that they're whole inside of themselves and have access to the higher vibrating frequencies of consciousness, that they're not even allowing certain things about their existence and their reality to pull them down. Like, you know, I can go to bed, I can wake, like, I don't know how I want to put this, because, you know, if you wake up after having an awesome dream, you just wake up in a great mood, you're like, oh shit, yeah, I love that dream, I want that to keep going. And then you just kind of tend to have a really good day after that, you know, sometimes. But then, and then maybe throughout the day you get reminders of it, like little deja vu moments that take you right back to, oh yeah, that's right, that happened in that dream, and oh man, I loved that so much, and you just get little reminders. But then there's other mornings where you just wake up and it's like everything's quiet. You're like, what the fuck? And then all of a sudden all these intrusive thoughts come in, and you're like, oh my God. Yeah, it's like the world comes crashing down on you. Like the negative thought police, like the archons are just sitting there. Like they've been, like you've been so out of it and so dreaming that when you woke up, you didn't realize there was like 5 archons, parasites on your aura, just sitting there sucking and trying to attack. That's the way it feels sometimes. It's like, fuck no, you gotta pick them off, and you gotta say, no, that's not, I'm thinking wrong. I'm not thinking properly here. This is clearly not my thinking. This is outside of me. This isn't me. This isn't me vibing high. So the more readily we're able to do that and jump out of those thought spirals that might normally pull us down, and if we can instead transmute those and then start vibing high and be like, all right, I'm back in the groove, I found it. I just had a bad, like yesterday, I just had a bad day there, I had to get through it, I did what I could, and I'm proud of myself. I didn't get down on myself, but also I acknowledge that those days are necessary, because otherwise you couldn't appreciate days like this one, or the day before was also a good day. It just happened to be, like, for some reason, yesterday just was difficult. But you get through it, and you don't get down on yourself about it. And, you know, you're excited for what the next day is going to bring. So we covered all of that. I think we covered basically everything I did want to talk about here. And so with that, and just so that I don't have a crazy long one again to to get through. The gratitude also helps. Like when you wake up in the morning, and you do have those archon parasites feeding on you, like it's so easy to start thinking about what you don't have or how you have fallen short, or whatever they want to get you thinking to feed on that energy. It's so easy to just, it might not be easy to jump into the thought process, but it's the easiest thing you can do is to start even the smallest thing of what you're grateful for. Start embracing that gratitude again. Just be like, okay, but you might want me to think about how I'm not gonna ever measure up to my father's expectations or whatever. If you're thinking that deep right away in the morning, I've been there. But at the same time, you could say, well, I might not, but I would rather think about how much I appreciate having coffee right away in the morning. The smell of it, and start thinking about all the things you appreciate about the coffee. And so all you got to do is come up with one thing, and then just think about that one thing. Think about details about the one thing, or think about if you need to make, have multiple things that you're thinking about, all the things that you're grateful for. And it helps to bring you out of that negative Nancy morning archon attack that happens from time to time. We can't always wake up to having great dreams and jumping right into the flow of our day. Sometimes we do have to alchemize right out of the gate, but it's those mornings, especially if you can do that and notice yourself doing it and say, look at what we just did. I'm proud of myself for being able to alchemize that and then still pull something together for this morning and this beautiful day. And also yesterday was like crazy overcast too. It rained. It was just a dreary day yesterday. But look at this. Like we alchemized, we made the best of it, and it improved. And really, I don't want to say that's all we can hope for, because that sounds like a defeatist, nihilistic way to look at it. But really, that's kind of like, that'll be our baseline expectation for the ability to alchemize thoughts that might bring us down, situations that bring down our consciousness. And the more we can keep our consciousness vibing high, keep up in those, what you got, sub, and you got, I don't know, I'll have to look that up. What's the opposite of sub? Par? No, it's, what would that be? I don't know, I'll have to look that up. I'll ask Grok. But, whatever those are, pro, post, you know what I'm talking about, plus 300 consciousness levels that we want to maintain. I mean, 300 is like, you don't want to go any lower than that usually. Like 250, I think, is like the cutoff. 200 is the, now you're in danger. Like you're in the bad if you're at 200. But yeah, let's stay at least above 4, if we can. But we're getting on. I'm going to cut it off here and leave you guys with a bunch to think about. Thanks for stopping in and sticking with me to the end again. And until next time, never stop spreading your light. I love you.